Good evening, everyone. I'm Vishal Salsekar, and today we are going to cover the News Today articles for 4th of December. So, in today's discussion, we are going to cover five important articles in detail. The first is regarding the National Statistical Commission. So, we will see that recently there has been a parliamentary panel which has suggested to provide the statutory status to this particular commission. We will see the significance of this commission and the significance of this particular step. The next is regarding the report on the mechanism to curb the fake news. So, similarly, again, there were recommendations provided in order to curb the fake news because right now you are living in the era of social media. There is artificial intelligence, there is deepfake, and there are very high chances that the news and the scenarios can be manipulated and that can cause serious harm to a lot of situations. And that's why it is important in order to curb certain things which are going beyond the line which has to be made sure. The next is regarding the rupee breaches, the 90 mark. So basically, now right now the scenario is that rupee has reached as per dollar like more than 90 rupees. So we will see the significance and also the issues associated with this particular breach of 90 marks. Next is regarding the invasive alien species. So specifically there has been a report regarding the invasive alien plants, that how they are impacting the entire ecosystem and how they are making the system vulnerable. So we are going to talk about that also. And the last we are going to cover regarding the Antarctic ozone hole. So we will see that how and why this particular situation is developing in the Antarctic zone and what are the issues because of that, and certain conventions in order to prevent the depletion of the ozone relate depleting substances, right? Then we are going to talk in the personality news section. We are going to talk about the prominent freedom fighter Khudiram Bose, and then there are certain other quick updates that we are going to discuss. So let's start the discussion with the very first article regarding the National Statistical Commission. So the parliamentary panel recommended the statutory status to the National Statistical Commission. Now, from the perspective of UPSC examination, this is important because first, that if there is any specific body getting the statutory status, what might be the significances of the getting statutory status? What will be the altered aspects, right? And apart from that, even the National Statistical Commission is an important body, gathering and generating a lot of data, having a data processing of data, standardization of data related aspects, right? So all these aspects may this is a prominent body. So from the perspective of UPSC examination, GS paper 2, where the structure, organization and functioning of the executive ministries, government department, this is important aspect. And also GS paper 3 from the economy perspective, because based upon these particular data you are seeing the numbers like GDP, employment, unemployment related numbers. Now, talking about that, what particular issues has been highlighted by the parliamentary panel. So they have highlighted that recently the performance that should be there from the side of the National Statistical Commission, that particular performance is not there. And the problem is that this enforcement related rules and provisions that should have been there, which might be there with the statutory bodies, which are right now lacking with the National Statistical Commission. So in its recent report they have talked about the performance review of the National Statistical Commission, and in that they have given an idea that there should be statutory status which can be provided. Now, talking about this, that why there are certain issues that are pertaining to the body like the National Statistical Commission. So the first issue regarding this is the inability to enforce the standards. Now, when this particular body is maybe a executive body, not a statutory body, that means a lot of things are at the discretion, right? No specifically written set of rules that might be there. The enforceability might also be having a one such prominent issue, right? So it is lacking the power to enforce the uniform standards. Along with that, the methodological aspects related to all set of data, whether it is the private data, whether it is government data. So this is one such prominent issue. Another is regarding the data discrepancies. Now see, if that is a statutory body, then there may be certain things which are laid out specifically in the statute and that had to be altered, then there will be a need for amendment, right? So in that particular statute there will be a need for amendment. So all the procedures and all will be clearly laid out, even the methodologies will be clearly laid out. So in these scenarios, the chances for the data discrepancy will be comparatively low and there may be a better standardization of this particular body. So the statistical estimates like GDP data, which if not at par, or which if not is correct, then it might undermine a lot of people and even the investors confidence in that particular economy. Talking about the limited autonomy, because see, eventually if this is going to get the statutory status, comparatively autonomy will be enhanced in this particular body. And when there will be enhancement of the autonomy, the external influence and external effects or the factors which are affecting from outside this body, that will be eventually reduced, and this autonomy is going to ensure the operational effectiveness, which is right now to some extent is getting hindered. So these are the issues that are being highlighted by the panel regarding the National Statistical Commission. Now, talking about the recommendation that this particular panel has provided, so there are certain things which need to be done. First thing is the statutory empowerment. So once you are going to provide the statutory status, there will be the nodal and the autonomous statutory body jo ki will ensure all the specific set of rules and laws which are clearly defined in that particular statute. And now this, through that particular statutory status, it is going to provide for all the statistical activities, and also there will be clearly laid down standards that how and in what manner this particular body is going to work upon. The next is the National Statistical Standards Framework. So like for different other bodies, in what manner they are functioning in order to harmonize the functioning or standardize the functioning, in the same manner this body is also going to function. For example, right now we are having the accounting standards that are being fixed by the Indian Institute of the Chartered Accountant India, right? So in this particular ICAI body, this is being developed, which is developing the for the audit and the chartered accountant related aspects mein a harmonious data, a specific set of standards, right? So the similar things will be available for the National Statistical Commission also for the collection, sampling and reporting. Talking about the formalized statistical audit, so it is also going to help with respect to conducting the audits in a periodic manner. There will be a clearly laid out mandate ki in this particular duration you have to do the audits, you have to give in this particular manner the report of that, and apart from that which are the concerned authorities. So all these things will be specifically laid out in that. So the comprehensive reviews of the data, right, processing the finding of the and the publishing, transparency related aspects, all these things are going to be clearly laid out when you are going to talk about that. Talking about the GDP related things, because see, when we are talking that there has to be some statutory backing which can be provided in order to ensure the streamlining. Now, when we talk about the GDP related methodology, so this providing the National Statistical Commission a statutory recognition that can ensure the more accurately capturing all the economic indicator, whether it is GDP, whether it is employment, whether it is unemployment, whether it is inflation related data. So it is going to contribute for better awareness of the informal sectors also, because this informal and the unorganized sector is going to contribute a lot in the economy. If you are going to exclude these particular sectors, to wahan par you will not be having the actual set of data. Talking about the recent development, for example, artificial intelligence, you can ensure the capacity building through artificial intelligence ka integration. You can ensure the better standardization through this. Talking about the international collaboration, you can learn the best practices which different other countries are doing. So these are certain things which can be done in order to ensure the better and the standardized framework, which includes all these pointers. Now, talking about the body which we have already discussed, the National Statistical Commission. So this was formed in 2005 by Government of India as an autonomous institution through the resolution. Now, this was the executive resolution. As of now, it is not having the statutory backing. So which is concerned about and which is demanded right now. So the commission associated with this is the Rangarajan Commission, right? So when we are talking about any specific body, and if UPSC is going to ask about this, the question may be asked that which committee is related to this particular body. So wahan par Rangarajan Commission can be mentioned, right? Apart from that, which is the concerned ministry jiske andar this body is there. So it is under the Ministry of Statistics and the Program Implementation, MOSPI, under the Government of India, right? Then the membership mein kaun hai? These are the membership. There is a part-time chairperson, eminent statistician or the social scientist. These are criteria mentioned, right? Next is the 4 part-time members with the specific specialization jo isme provided hai. Apart from that, CEO of Niti Aayog is the ex officio member. Apart from that, the chief statistician of India, who is the secretary to the commission, right? So these are the members to the National Statistical Commission. Now, what is the role? We have discussed that there is the data gathering, there is monitoring, there is a standardization, all these things are there, right? So responsible for identifying the core statistics, evolving the national policies and priorities, laying down the quality standards, exercising the statistical coordination. All these are concerning related to a lot of important things that the economy is having, whether it is about data, whether it is about the trend, whether it is about analysis of that. So in that, if there is standardization, if there is harmonization, you can get the better availability of the trend. If those things are not authentic, if there is a lack of credibility in those, so in that scenarios there is going to be lack of trust or the investors confidence in the economy, and that may lead to the shifting of the money from India to other countries. That's why it is important step. The next is regarding the parliamentary report on the subject's review of the mechanism to curb the fake news. So in India, there are different laws that are governing the fake news, but there are a lot of lacunas which are available in the laws or the regulations concerning the fake news. So this has been presented in Lok Sabha and there is a discussion going on. That's why it is important. Now, it is also important to understand that what is exactly the fake news and what are the issues associated with the fake news and what are the regulations that are there in India. Because UPSC can ask these type of questions, and whenever there may be a question regarding this, you are expected to at least quote certain important things with respect to these type of answers. Now, talking about this, GS paper 2, it is important because role and functioning of the regulatory body. Now, regarding this, what are the regulatory bodies, right? Apart from that, freedom of press and expression, freedom of speech and expression versus the public order and democracy. Because on one side there is the freedom, on the other side there has to be the image of that particular personality jiski image tarnish ki ja rahi hogi, right? So that may be there. GS paper 3, role of technology, artificial intelligence, deep fakes and all these things are right now important. Now, currently, what are the mechanisms that are available with India in order to curb the menace of fake news? So right now there are certain regulations which are available. For example, there is information technology intermediary guidelines and the digital media related ethics code. So this particular codes are governing regarding the regulation of the content which is being published online, चाहे वो content किसी personality के बारे में हो या maybe with respect to any specific news. So these are being governed by this IT related rules, right? Apart from that, there is the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, which has replaced the Indian Penal Code, right? So in that particular sense, section 353, which is criminalizing the spread of false information or basically rumors. So now you can compare it with the IPC also, and now the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita also to some extent have the laws regarding the spreading of the false information. But false information bhi bahut tarike ki ho sakti hai. It can be of different variety, and that's why it is important to understand that what type of false information it is there. So in that case, it is also an important provision with respect to the Indian laws. The last is regarding the Information Technology Act of 2000, which is also a very important act pertaining to this particular fake news related things. Iske alawa fact check units are there. You might have seen during the time period of Operation Sindoor, a lot of misinformation was being spread through different platforms. और वहां पर PIB fact check emerged as a very important tool in order to give the authentic idea about those particular news जो कि circulate हो रही हैं, right? Then the Cable Television Networks Regulation Act of 1995 for the private satellite TV channels, because for the TV channels जो आप देख रहे होते हो घर में, in that case there are different set of regulations. For social media, there are different set of regulations. So these are the current mechanism that you can quote just एक idea के लिए that these are the present mechanisms in order to deal with the menace of the fake news. Now, talking about this, that what are the present issues and what are the recommendation of the committee. So the first thing first, let's talk about the subjects and then issues and then the recommendation. So first issue or the subject is absence of the statutory definition. So right now this is a major issue as far as the fake news is concerned. There is no single definition of the fake news. क्या आता है fake news के अंदर? Whether the circulation of image, whether the circulation of statements, whether giving misinformation about something. So what exactly is the fake news? Sometimes it is confused with the paid news, sometimes it is confused with the advertisement. So what exactly is under the fake news? This is not explicitly mentioned in any of the statutes, and that's what is very important. Now talking about the recommendation of committee, तो committee बोलती है कि first thing, there has to be a legal and a clearly defined definition of the fake news. इसके अलावा what you should do a committee that should suggest certain intervention. Now you can see IT Act was there in 2000. Now from 2000 to 2025 there has been a lot of changes. There has been incorporation of deep fakes, there have been incorporation of the artificial intelligence, right? तो इतनी सारे जो changes हुए हैं, that has to be incorporated in the IT Act and and the Cable Television Networks Act of 1995. These are not exactly outdated, but there is a need to reform these particular acts. Talking about the regulatory gaps, क्योंकि देखो, once fake news is being circulated, you as a user, then there are intermediaries, for example the platforms, maybe the Meta, maybe Instagram, maybe WhatsApp, right? And then there may be a person who is publishing that particular fake news. So now what will be the role of this intermediary जो कि एक platform है, whether the platform is responsible for that? If platform is having awareness that the misinformation is being circulated through that platform, is it responsibility of the platform to remove that or not? What are the responsibilities? So generally the safe harbor principle is being utilized कि भाई we are acting as an intermediary, we do not know exactly who has posted this, and we do not exactly know that why this particular post has been posted online. Now you as a consumer should not get worried about that thing. So this is major issue, and because of which right now the जो intermediaries हैं वो कहीं ना कहीं बच जाते हैं through the safe harbor provisions, right? So जहां पर liabilities is comparatively limited, and they say कि भाई who has posted, it's their liability in order to get any legal consequences if that is because of the news posted. Now there has to be certain changes in the IT Act that should be revisited to ensure the accountability. If on your platform, if these things are getting published, it is your responsibility also in order to ensure the fact check and the data related clarity, right? So also ensuring accountability, giving the algorithms can sometimes amplify the sensational news. Jitna sensation that are being amplified by the platform, that's why the platform also have certain responsibility. They can not just have the safe harbor. Talking about the cross-border jurisdiction, many of the companies which are acting as a platform now not being registered in the Indian jurisdiction, वो कहीं और established है, they are working in that particular digital mode, right? So how you are going to ensure the any specific provision or any specific action against those bodies? So it is difficult to hold the foreign content creator accountable. This is also issue. Suppose karo that third party is sitting, let's say in Germany or maybe in any other country, right? So in that case, how you are going to ensure that the foreign content creators are accountable? Also the companies are also established at different other places. They are just having their digital presence in India, so making them accountable is comparatively difficult, right? So there should be a dedicated interministerial task force, MEA bhi involve hona chahiye, because with respect to the external relation there is the concerned ministry which is MEA. Last in this is regarding the technological sophistication. So at the receiver's end, it is also our responsibility in order to ensure कि जो deep fakes है या जो misaligned videos hai, ya maybe certain videos which are altered, so all those videos should be identified, and if there are fake videos, if they are deep fake videos or the AI generated videos, there should be a clear labeling so that at least the platform can be questioned for in that particular sense. So proliferation of the AI videos, deep fakes due to increased internet penetration and low digital literacy, तो वो भी एक identifier flag होना चाहिए. So exploring the feasibility of the mandatory labeling of the AI generated video, that can be one thing. Licensing requirement for the AI content creator, because in the case of AI, whom you are going to hold responsible? यहाँ तो कोई individual भी नहीं है, it is the AI algorithm, right? So in that particular case, it is a new thing which is emerging and which has to be ensured that will remain in order. So that is very important, right? Now talking about certain questions, so some questions that have been asked previously, for example, what do you understand by the contempt or concept of the freedom of speech and expression? Does it cover the hate speech also? Why do Indian films in India stand on the slightly different plane from the other form of expression? Discuss. So again, this is a comparatively outdated question, but yes, from the perspective of fake news, there can be question like this can also be asked. यहाँ पर fake news को भी utilize किया जा सकता है. Next is regarding the sliding down of the rupee vis-a-vis dollar. So the Indian rupee breaches 90 mark against the US dollar. So there is a depreciation of the Indian rupee that we are seeing. Now from the perspective of economy, it can be good also, it can be bad also, right? So from the economy perspective, it is very important, specifically the macroeconomic indicator. Now talking about that, जो trivia associated with this particular issue is that the growth is very high, roughly 8.2% के around. This is the growth rate, right? GDP growth rate for this quarter. Then nearly 1% inflation rate, which is very low, below 1%. That means inflation भी control में है. Crude prices are also low. Then why this particular issue is happening जहां पर there is a breach of prices in the context of the rupee vis-a-vis dollar. So why rupee is falling? Why there is a depreciation of rupee that we are seeing in the economy? So the Indian rupee is depreciating more than 5% in 2025 only. That means rupee ka jo depreciation hai, despite all these good macroeconomic indicators, it is still depreciating. So what is exactly the depreciation? So the depreciation is reduction of value of your currency vis-a-vis the global standards. Right now we are comparing it with respect to the global currency, which is dollar, right? So in the case of this, the depreciation is vis-a-vis dollar. What type of value is changing, whether it is decreasing or increasing. If it is increasing, that is the appreciation, or yahan par it is depreciation when the value is getting reduced. So devaluation or depreciation mein difference hai. Devaluation is the intentional aspect of country where the countries through their macroeconomic policy is ensuring the devaluation of the currency, but the depreciation is generally led by the market related factors, generally in the free floating economy or the mixed type of economy. Now talking about what are the factors jo derive kar rahe hain is depreciation ko, there may be certain factors. It has been expected that there may be role of this, because see, exact reason to kisi ko nahi pata, because the demand and supply, it is based upon the market forces. But what are those forces? We can talk about these. So the first is uncertainty over the US India trade deal. So since the time period of the Trump's sanction on India, whether it is the primary or the secondary type of sanctions, roughly 50% of the tariff has been imposed. Now, because of this tariff, there are certain uncertainties prevailing over the market. And because of this, and along with that pending India-US trade deal, there are issues because of which the trade is getting reduced right now. And that is increasing the dollar's price vis-a-vis rupee price, right? So that's why one such thing. Next is the capital outflow. So when there is turmoil situation in economy, people think that right now the economy is not that stable. Then in that case, people want to take out their money from the economy and want to invest that money in certain markets jahan par they are getting certainty. Ab jahan par they are getting certainty, for that they need to pick out the money from this economy, which is India right now. So they are taking out money from India and expecting better returns from any other place. So this is also one such thing. So jab yahan se paisa nikalenge, so they are taking out their money, and eventually that will be resulted into the lack of dollars. Lack of dollars means the appreciation of the price of dollar vis-a-vis rupee. Then the widening of the trade deficit. There are certain products jo ki India mein comparatively come available hai. For example, gold, silver, these type of bullions, right? Apart from that, there is crude oil also. But see, with respect to crude oil, comparatively the chances are high that we are getting the cheaper crude oil. But what about the other things? For example, gold. Gold ka price in the last year that has surged significantly. With respect to silver also the similar situation. Apart from that, electronics, rare earth elements. So these are, the prices are increasing, and that's why when we are importing, we have to pay in dollars, right? So that's what is making issue with respect to the trade deficit. Certain cushions were available, for example, with respect to the US, but that trade is also getting reduced. The reason being the Trump's tariff, right? So that is also one such issue. The last is regarding the speculative investment. Now the people are also thinking that tomorrow, suppose if it becomes 100 rupees per dollar, so in that case they need to spend more rupee to take $1. Now in that particular case, what will be the situation? That the rupee will be given more for purchasing $1. Right now, even at 90 rupees marks, they'd want कि भाई 90 रुपए पे खरीद लेते हैं, so that next time when it will be at 100 rupee, we will be roughly at 10 rupees ka profit, right? So that's why speculative investment also they are doing, and that is causing further increase in the amount of dollar, and that is causing the depreciation of the rupee vis-a-vis dollar. Now talking about the key impacts of this particular thing on the economy, so it can be on both sides. See, it has not to be seen only from the negative perspective. There are also good things attached with the depreciation. The negative issues are, for example, right now also we are the import based economy majority, right? So the crude oil, food related oils, and a lot of things that we are taking from the external world. Now jab hamara repayment hota hai, that repayment has to be done in dollars. So in that particular case, in order to purchase that dollar, now we need to give more rupee. So in that case, that import are going to get costlier. Apart from that, increasing subsidy burden. So suppose karo, if you have to, let's say, purchase, for example, fertilizer, now वहां पर आपको ज्यादा देना पड़ेगा. Now the government is giving subsidy for fertilizer. That means the spending has to be increased from the government side also, right? So that is going to increase the government spending on the welfare or the subsidy related regimes also. Higher cost of the overseas liabilities. So basically the companies जो कि dollars में trade कर रही या external companies जहां पर repayments pending hai, for that the repayment will need more dollars, means more spending of rupee in order to purchase that limited amount of dollar. अब उसमें भी क्या हो रहा है कि दैट कंपनीज विद डॉलर डिनोमिनेटेड डेट फेस द हायर रीपेमेंट, क्योंकि मनी इज नीडेड मोर. सपोज करो व्हेन द रुपी वाज एट 80 रुपी vis-a-vis डॉलर एंड वंस इट इज एट 90, नाउ फॉर 80 रुपीज का जो डेट लिया था आपको उसको रीपे करने के लिए 90 रुपीज के डॉलर में पे करना पड़ रहा है. दैट इज द मेन इशू. Talking about the positive thing, obviously there are certain positives are also associated. For example, export competitiveness. Now suppose karo, if India is exporting something, now if India is exporting, the dollar price has not changed. For example, let's say for a cotton shirt right now it is in $1 in US, right? So abhi in the context of that particular dollar, now once they are sending the dollar major payment for the Indian export to that particular country, now that dollar is giving you 90 rupees. And in that conversion they are also getting benefited because उन्हें convert करने के लिए comparatively कम खर्च करना पड़ रहा है. That's why they will feel that purchasing from you is cheaper, and that's how the export can become more competitive. That's why you see that certain countries intentionally do this. For example, the best case is China, that devalue currency generally, right? Next is regarding the remittances. Now for the remittances also similar things, they are sending this in dollar. Now when they are sending this in dollar, now vis-a-vis dollar to rupee exchange that has increased, so the remittances will also be available in more amount in terms of rupee, right? So that will also be more attractive things. Now, talking about what measures has to be taken, because this situation of volatility has to be addressed. So in that case, what measures can be taken? For example, the monetary policy related measures. So the monetary policy is basically being managed by RBI. So here the RBI has to step in, right? So the foreign exchange intervention by RBI, for example, suppose if there is a scarcity of dollar in the economy and that's why the dollar becomes scarce or uski value badhti and that's why the rupee will fall. So in that case, they can flood to some extent the market with dollar. They can sell some dollar and suck up the rupee, and that's why the dollar vis-a-vis rupee can be managed, right? Increasing the interest rate, that can also reduce the monetary supply in terms of rupee. Currency swap agreements with different countries, all these can ensure that the supply is managed, and that's why the volatility can be reduced. Apart from that, fiscal policy measures also that can be taken place, because certain imports and exports can be managed properly. For example, gold in this case, right? So reducing the import dependency by incentivizing the domestic production for electronics specifically, right? Boosting the export through the diversification and FTAs India is doing. For example, India and EFTA countries, European free trade countries, have signed the trade deal, and now that is enacted also. Apart from that, with UK we have signed, with European Union we are in discussion, with the United States we are in talks, right? So these things are going to help India in order to ensure the better trade regime, right? Now, next is regarding the new study published in the journal Nature Sustainability, which warns about the invasive alien species, right? So this is talking about the invasive alien species, and that's why it is important from the GS paper 3 environment perspective. Now, talking about this, that what is the context? So it is mentioned in the report that there is a rise of the invasive alien species. What is invasive alien species? The species which is not natural to that particular habitat or ecosystem, but once that is introduced, that overpowers the other species because uska koi natural predator nahi, there is no natural predator available for that particular species. That's why the population of that species increases significantly. Now this does not end over here. Now that particular species is going to end up eating a lot of resources from that particular place, and that's why the place is going to get scarce with the natural resources, and the native species are going to get suffer. And this is the main concept of the invasive alien species, which is preventing thriving of the native species. Now it can be of the animals also, it can be of the plants also, it can go in any such way. So this is basically the invasive alien species written as IAS. Do not get confused with that, right? Now, what are the key highlights that have been talked about in the study? So this is the study related highlights. Let's talk about these, and that will give you certain pointers, right? First is regarding the expansion of the invasive alien species. So it is mentioned that annually roughly 15,500 square kilometer mein this invasive alien species, specifically the plants, are getting increased, and these at least a new species is invading every year. So this is the major issue, that the new alien species are also increasing, and apart from that, every year this much number or the unit of area is getting increased as far as the attack from the side of the invasive alien species, specifically plant yahan par hum baat kar rahe hain. Now talking about the certain sensitive region, the Western Ghats, Himalayas, Northeast, jahan par the natural vegetation is also significant, but then once there is rise of the invasive alien species that can lead to the destruction of the native species, and that is being observed, and this is the double rate which we are observing in the sensitive regions, and that's why it is very, very serious concern. Now, impacting the natural ecosystem, so this is also one such prominent issue. So it is mentioned that roughly 2/3 of the India's natural ecosystem now contain at least 11 major invasive alien species. The names are like Lantana camera is there, then the Chromolena odorata is there, then the Prosperus juliflora is there. So these are certain prominent invasive alien species. Now the point simply here is कि initially they were introduced maybe for the economic benefit, maybe for certain plantation related drive, but gradually they expanded like wildfire, and in that particular scenario they took up a large amount of water, they took up the large amount of region, like there is going to be the deforestation or maybe a lot of issues with respect to that particular region's desertification related things, because when the moisture and the soil related moisture is getting reduced, that is going to cause a lot of issues for the natural species. Apart from that, it is also mentioned that because of the climate change driven, certain species are getting thrive. For example, there are certain regions, for example, which are wet biome, वहां पर there are wet biome invaders are rising, जो कि कम पानी में भी thrive कर सकते हैं, right? Apart from that, there are certain the dry biome invasion, ठीक है? For example, Xanthium stramarum is there, that has increased because of the increasing rainfall. So it is going on in both ways. For example, जो पहले उतना नहीं पाए जाते थे, those which were not available previously, now those species are available because of the climate change and its impact, and that is causing very major issue with respect to the rise of the invasive alien species. Now talking about the impact, since we are talking about they are the invasive and the alien means they are not native, invasive means which are thriving at the cost of the others, right? And that's why they are threatening the livelihood for the animals, livelihood for the plants, and livelihood even for the human beings. Why? Because they are accessing the blocking the access to the pasture. For example, if they are only thriving species, they will be eliminating the native species. You will be deprived of the food, you will be deprived of the fuel, you will be deprived of even the oxygen, and that may block the access of a lot of things, and ultimately leading to even for the humans like the respiratory illness. Talking about the threat to wildlife, again, once they are thriving, they will be eliminating the different other competitive species, and that's why this particular invasion is also going to impact the species which are dependent on that. For example, in this case, it is mentioned that invasion impacted more than 1 lakh square kilometer of tiger habitat. Next is threat to biodiversity. So for example, Lantana camera is there, so which has suppressed the native vegetation in the India's Western Ghat. So you can assume that when a lot of species are dependent on the region like Western Ghat, and if there is one species that is getting predominance and that may threat the entire biodiversity, this is a very significant threat to the entire biodiversity in the ecosystem. Last is regarding the economic loss. So since it is associated, all these things are associated with the at the end of the day economy, so it is going to cause the economic loss, and it is estimated that by from 1960 to 2020 roughly $127.3 billion has been lost in terms of the economic losses of the biodiversity. Now talking about what may be the way ahead then, so there is a need for the national mission. So there should be all the stakeholders, species ke context mein, there may be the plant species, animal species, so that should come together. There can be a commission that can be established, or the mission that can be established. Then the prevention, so there should be a proper check with respect to species, the previous case studies that has to be understood, and apart from that there are certain conventions. For example, there is a International Maritime Organization IMO related convention, which is the ballast water management convention. जो ballast water होता है which is available below the ship, and that particular water once carried from one place to another place, that particular water also may carry certain species, so that should not be discharged at the destination place, right? Empowerment through the process of recovery and monitoring. So if there are certain instances that had happened jahan par there is a loss to the species, that should be recovery programs also. Lastly, following the best practices, for example, pest management, risk analysis, for example, in New Zealand. So these things has to be implemented in order to prevent any such issue because of this. Last in this is regarding the Antarctic ozone hole closes early, indicating the steady progress in the global ozone recovery. So the ozone layer is important in order to prevent the UV radiations or the specifically beta radiations from that. And apart from that, in that particular case, जब ozone hole बढ़ता है, that is going to cause a lot of diseases also, and that's why it is important topic from the examination perspective. Again, GS3 environment ecology, right? Now talking about the context, so see, it is a yearly phenomena जहां पर there will be certain season or the seasonal changes in the ozone layer जहां पर depletion होता है, there is rise of the depletion and that particular depletion is getting filled also by the subsequent months. So generally it has been observed that from the August to November there is the rise of depletion and then gradually that gets filled up. So this has now filled up on the 1st December and that's why it is there in news. So the ozone hole is a seasonal and the severe thinning of the stratospheric ozone over the Antarctica, specifically more predominant over the Antarctica. Right now, the months that are almost every year we are seeing this particular depletion is from August to November. So August se shuru hota hai, by the November it peaks and then gradually it reduces, right? And that's why we are seeing, and specifically when we are talking about Antarctica, we are talking about the southern hemisphere. Now why in the southern hemisphere it is that much predominant, right? Now when we talk about the data regarding kitna region impact hota hai, 21 million square kilometer in 2025. And 2006 में it was seen at the maximum extent roughly 29 million square kilometer. So now this depletion is also reducing. That is a good sign because the ozone depleting substances have also been significantly reduced. And thanks to the जो हम लोगों ने conventions sign किए थे. Right. So stratospheric ozone, what is the stratospheric ozone? So simply it is also known as the good ozone because the bad ozone is at the troposphere level or at the surface level, which is basically being created by the chemical reaction between the volatile organic compounds and the oxides of nitrogen. So that is the bad ozone. This stratospheric ozone is the good ozone, generally available from roughly 10 kilometer to 40 kilometer in the stratospheric layer, which prevents the penetration of the UV radiations, right? And that's why it is preventing from a lot of diseases. Now the causes kya hai iske? First is the ozone depleting substances. So we know that there are chlorofluorocarbons. Then apart from that, there are halogens, there are hydrochlorofluorocarbon, HCFCs are there, then the methyl bromide. So these are related to depletion of the ozone layer because yahan se jo chlorine, fluorine, then bromine, all these are getting released in the form of the ions which are available, and those are then reacting with the layer, and that is causing the depletion of the ozone, right? So this is one such issue. Apart from that, there are certain meteorological drivers also. For example, there is polar vortex. Now in the case of polar vortex, it traps the entire circulation, or जो एक circulation होना चाहिए था, that circulation which might be there between the polar region and the subpolar region or maybe the tropical region, that is prevented, and that concentrates are available at the stratospheric level, जो कि एक base का काम करता है, which provides the base to the chemical reaction which is leading to the depletion of the ozone layer. Talking about the sunlight, so the sunlight also provides the ambient environment in order to deplete the ozone layer. So by August, September, in the southern hemisphere, there is availability of the sufficient sunlight, and this particular sunlight provides the energy in order to act on that particular radicals, and that radicals are ensuring the depletion of ozone layer. Now talking about the impact, obviously it is attached to the health risk. So when we talk about the ozone layer ka depletion, it can cause the skin cancer related issues. Apart from that, the cataract, then the weakened immunity, all these things are there because you are getting exposed to too much UV radiations from the sun, which otherwise would have been blocked by the ozone layer. Talking about the ecosystem damage, so now when you are getting impacted, the other parts of the ecosystem are also getting impacted. So the reduced plant productivity, disruption of the maritime food chain, right? So there are sensitive species which cannot bear a lot of changes, and in that particular case, जब वो expose होते हैं with the UV radiation, that is also getting impacted, and that may also lead to the impact on ecosystem. Now talking about the treaties which we were discussing earlier, so there was one of the earliest convention in order to recognize the depletion of the ozone layer and then work upon that was the Vienna Convention. So it was the one of the earliest and the initial convention, international cooperation, research, monitoring for ozone production. And then based upon this, there was a protocol signed which banned the ozone depleting substances, for example, which was the Montreal Protocol. So universally ratified treaty, binding principle for the phasing down of all the ozone depleting substances, which achieved roughly कि 1990 का जो लेवल था वहां से 2020 के लेवल तक 98% reduction we have ensured. And later on there was a Kigali agreement which also includes the hydrofluorocarbons. So HFCs, which are predominantly the greenhouse gases, but that have also been incorporated because it was seen that that can also deplete the ozone layer and also simultaneously increasing the greenhouse gases. So the Kigali amendment also included the HFCs, right? Now, talking about the previous year question, one of the following is associated with the issue of the control and phasing out of the ozone use of the ozone depleting substances. So, there are certain things you have to answer that which of the following is the correct one in the context of the ozone depleting substances. Now, talking about the personality in news, the personality in news is Khudiram Bose, who had achieved the martyrdom in the age of roughly 18 to 19 years. You can assume that what kind of revolutionary he was, right? So during the time period of the Swadeshi movement, the mahal of the India was comparatively charged. You are seeing the rise of the nationalistic sentiments, and then those people from the Britishers who are doing atrocities on the people. So these the revolutionaries who were not of that much age, they also were charged with the sentiments in order to drive out the Britishers, and that's how the personalities like Praful Chaki, Khudiram Bose became very, very important and the significant personality. So recently, the leaders paid tribute to the freedom fighter Khudiram Bose, and that's why he was in news. Now, where he was born in the region of West Bengal, Medinipuri district, right? So influenced by the Swadeshi movement and obviously charged by the nationalistic ideas. Now he joined the Anushilan Samiti, which was a revolutionary group working specifically in the Bengal region. Now they were pursuing certain revolutionary activities. For example, let's say bombing the carriage. If these particular, let's say magistrate or let's say certain leaders have been involved in putting up atrocities on the nationalist leaders, right? So he has participated in the Muzaffarpur conspiracy case, jahan par there was they have planned a bomb attack on the carriage which was supposed to carry the district magistrate, the Douglas Kingford. But actually what happened that there were two ladies, and that when they threw the bomb on that particular carriage, then in that case those ladies got injured, and that's why they were arrested, the Praful Chaki and Khudiram Bose. And then eventually Praful Chaki shot himself and Khudiram Bose was hanged, and ultimately led to the supreme sacrifice, right? So the values we can learn from is like courage, sacrifice, revolutionary zeal, right? And the selflessness also. Now, having discussed about him, let's discuss certain other quick updates. So first in this is regarding the leprosy, which is also known as the Hansen disease. So recently NHRC has submitted the 97 central and the state laws which are still discriminating against the persons with leprosy, because in certain jobs requirement and certain laws are discriminations that have been put for the leprosy or even the cured people from leprosy. So how it is being caused? It is being caused by, it is a bacterial infection caused by the Mycobacterium leprae, right? Skin, peripheral nerves and the eyes which are getting impacted from the leprosy. Now it is one of the neglected tropical disease jiska incidence bahut zyada tha. It was roughly more than 57 per 10,000, but now it has significantly reduced to 0.57 out of 10,000. That means even less than one, and that's why it is considered as eliminated from India, and that's why India is considered free from leprosy right now. So in 2005, India achieved the elimination status of leprosy at the national level. Now right now prevalence level is 0.57 in 10,000 cases by 2025. So we have achieved roughly 99% reduction. How it is being transmitted? Through the droplets from the nose and the mouth. Next is regarding the Central Excise Amendment Bill 2025. So simply this particular bill was an amendment to the Central Excise Act of 1944, which is in order to put more excise duty on the tobacco and the other harmful products related to tobacco like the cigarettes and all, in order to put more taxes, increasing the cost, and that's why they're discouraging the utilization of these products, because ultimately they are not good for the health of the individual, right? So previously with the introduction of the GST, there have been more cess that have been provided, but later on now once the compensation is going to get removed, so the government is now trying to levy the higher excise duty on the tobacco and the related products once the GST compensation cess is going to end. Now this excise duty is the what? It is the form of indirect tax that the government imposes, or the central government, on the domestic production of the goods. So that's how it is as a part of the Central Excise Amendment Bill. Next is regarding denotified tribes. So center is right now, it has been mentioned that the center has not classified certain tribes as the denotified tribes. Even the survey report have talked about that, mention these as the denotified tribe. Now what are this particular allegation? So there is Anthropological Survey of India, which in 2023 has put up a report in order to classification of the 85 tribes as the denotified tribe. Now previously these particular tribes were known as the criminal tribes, right? during the British time period, and later on in 1949 this criminal tribe wala part was repealed and it was mentioned as the denotified tribal communities, right? So there was a Idate commission in 2017 which is recommended for setting up a permanent commission for the denotified tribes and doing the caste census. So in order to integrate them better with the society and in order to give a equal status to these particular tribes, the denotified tribes has been mentioned, right? So not classifying the denotified tribes is a major issue that has to be clarified. Next is regarding the asteroid Bennu. So previously also we had discussed about this particular asteroid. So asteroid is something like which is also revolving around the sun. So it is also passing by Earth roughly in every 6 years, and that's why this was there previously also in news. And right now this Osiris Rex which was sent to probe this particular asteroid Bennu, which has observed that there is a presence of glucose in the samples which were collected. That means glucose, which is the primary form of the energy, and that will be a lot of other life which are dependent on that. So if the presence of glucose is there, maybe there may be availability of the life which can also be seen later on. So presence of essential chemical ingredient for life is available in this particular asteroid. So it is relatively small asteroid, right? So which is close to Earth and passes roughly 6 years around Earth के पास से गुजरता है. It is the amalgamation of the rocks which are not found on the Earth. So different type of rocks available which are connected together, not in that close compaction, but jointed through gravity and many other type of phenomena which are being understood through these particular type of probes. Now you have to tell me that the meteoroid and meteors and asteroid, क्या difference होता है? What is the difference? Or you should also have an idea regarding what are the basic differences between these and even the comets, right? Next is the inhalable microplastics. So there are certain reports which are talking about that in the Indian cities there is a rise of the high concentration of the inhalable microplastics which you can inhale also. Generally you see plastic in the hard form, but if it is divided very minute or very small scale at the micro scale, right? So in that particular case it is like the dust particle, it can enter in from your nose or mouth into your respiratory system and that is going to damage. So particle less than 10 micrometer, so 10 micrometer, 1 micrometer is roughly 10 to the power minus 6. So utna zyada is issue and that can be inhaled easily by the individual, and that is a major issue as compared to the microplastic. Microplastic ka definition is roughly 5 millimeter se kam, and for the inhalable ones they are the 10 micrometer se kam or 10 micron se kam size. Once inhaled it can penetrate deep into the lungs, enter into the bloodstream, potentially reach the crucial organ and also acting as a Trojan horse. Means they are deteriorating your condition and that can even block a lot of major functions of your body. So jo inhalable microplastics that can carry pathogens, also toxic chemicals causing the inflammation, cellular stress, apart from that increasing risk of the long-term disease like cancer. So when you are getting exposed to pollution, that is also causing a lot of issues and there are chances of the microplastics that are also getting increased. Next is regarding the Naksha, which is the center is planning to major overhaul in the urban property registration system by replacing the hand-drawn sketches with the precise spatial database such as Naksha, which is the National Geospatial Knowledge-Based Land Survey for the urban habitations, right? So basically it is the digitization of the hand drawn nakshe hai wo, that's how you can understand naksha related to the maps, right? Which is the concerned department, because the department and ministries are more important: Department of the Land Resources and the Ministry of the Rural Development under the Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. So this is the concerned program which is for the digitization of the land record. What will be the benefit? Benefit is going to reduce the title related disputes jo hai unko kam karega, because obviously once it is available in the digital mode there will be lesser contestation that is available. To build the comprehensive GIS integrated database of urban land parcels using the cutting edge aerial and the field survey technique. So this is going to help with respect to reduction of the disputes and also utilizing the maximum value of property. So transparent property ownership, streamlining the urban planning, better infrastructure development, all these are there. Next is regarding the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, CDSCO, which has recently mandated designated QR codes and a toll-free number to be displayed at the retail and the wholesale pharmacies to report the adverse drug reaction. So if there are issues with respect to the drug reaction, you can scan that particular code and you can call in order to get a relief, right? Where is the headquarter of the CDSCO? It is in New Delhi. as a statutory organization formed under the Drug and Cosmetics Act of 1940. It is under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. These are very, very important news. Now, it's regulatory control over the drugs, approval of the new drugs, clinical trials. All these things are under its ambit. Now, the last news article is regarding the reciprocal exchange of the logistics supports, RELOS Pact. So you might have heard regarding the LEMOA, Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement with US. So this is with Russia, which is the reciprocal exchange of logistics supports. That means India and Russia can utilize their each other's logistical facilities. For example, let's say the hub with respect to, let's say, the naval bases and others, in order to operate, in order to ensure help for each other. So the Russia's lower house ratified the reciprocal exchanges logistical supports pact, making the major step in deepening the bilateral military cooperation between Russia and India. It ensures both countries military platform को access कर सकते हैं, others bases, ports, airfield, and also the maintenance facilities. So suppose if Indian ships wants any type of refurbishment or any other type of support from the Russian bases, it has to be provided. Facilitates the joint exercises, training, disaster relief, refueling, repairs, and the port visits. Lastly, it enhances India's operational reach, including the potential access to the Russian naval routes, along with that the strengthening overall military coordination. So this will ensure the logistics exchange and logistic support. That will boost even the status of India as a major defense partner and major defense power in the world, right? So with this, we have completed all the news articles for the today's news today discussion. I hope the things are clear to you. Now there must be certain question on your screen. Try to solve those particular question. We'll meet again in the next set of news today discussions. Thank you everyone. Have a great day.